Hello everyone, my name is Nikos Gazetas and I am a graphic designer and Adobe certified instructor for Photoshop, and on behalf of Academy class I'm going to show you today how to retouch your portrait photos, and we're going to see some great techniques. But before we start with that, I would like to show you how the retouching tools of Photoshop work. And before I even go and select my tool, I need to create a new layer. To create a new layer, I'm going to go on my layers panel and click on the create a new layer icon, and I have layer 1, and I'm going to work on layer 1. And the retouching tools of Photoshop are here. The first one is called Spot Healing Brush. I'm going to zoom in to show you exactly how this tool works. The tool uses a brush, this round cursor that you can see on my screen, with which I go on the spot that I want to remove and just click, and the spot has been removed. Of course, for this to work, I need to have my sample layers option checked on my control panel, and I can continue removing spots easily without any problem. This works well with smaller areas. If we have though an area like this one, like this here, when I try to remove it, as you can see, the result isn't as good as I would want it to be. So this is not the tool that I will be using for this situation. I will undo that. Okay, and I would prefer another tool which is called Healing Brush tool. The Healing Brush tool is pretty similar to the Clone Stamp tool, and with which I need to sample areas of my photo and clone on other areas of the photo. The Healing Brush tool doesn't exactly clone. What it does is usually heals. What does that mean? It means that I have the two areas, the one that already existed and the one that I'm going to clone, and blend them together. This is what the tool does, blends two areas together to make a final outcome. Now, before I start sampling, I need to make sure that the sample option is for current below, not all layers, not current layer. If I have current layer, what I'm going to do is try to sample from an empty layer that doesn't have any pixels, so the outcome will be nothing. And this is why I prefer current below. I alt click and sample, and then go the area that needs healing and heal it. As you can see, now the result is much better than before. This is what I'm going to do with small wrinkles on her forehead. Some areas here, but let's see what's going to happen if I would try to do it in this area. As you can see, by doing what I did before, the result isn't the best, because I'm cloning from this area and I'm trying to blend with this area, and the result isn't that good. So I'm going to undo that. The third tool that I would like to show you today is the patch tool, which is mainly used for larger areas like this one, and I could try and circle and select this area, but as you can see on my control panel, I do not have a selection that allows me to use some other layer other than the one I'm already on. So with layer 1 selected, I cannot use it. What I need to do is create a copy of my background. So I'll press Command J on my Mac. That will be Control J on a PC. And I have a background copy now, which I'm selecting this area, and I will drag it down over an area that doesn't have a problem, and this area is going to be my sample. I let go, and this is what happens. Again, the two areas are being blended, and they give me one final outcome. If you believe that the outcome is too intense, we do have the option of fading down a little bit. This option is on my edit menu, fade patch selection, and I'm taking the opacity of this slider a little bit lower. This is a better result. It seems a little bit more realistic, and I can click OK right now. Then I'm going to deselect by going to select and deselect, or pressing Command D on my Mac or Control D on a PC, and I'm just going to do it over again on the other, under the other eye. Same here, edit, fade patch selection, lowering the opacity to 60%, clicking OK, and deselect again. This could be a good result, but I'm not too excited about that. And as you can see, the Photoshop tool for retouching are good, but they work great under specific circumstances. What I want to do, I want to retouch a photo under any circumstances and have great results. And the way to do that, I'm going to show you right away. Now, I'm going to clear these layers, I'm going to delete them, and start over again. Before I start, I need to create two copies of my background, because I'm going to use a technique that's called frequency separation. And frequency separation allows me to separate my photo into two different layers, one that can have all the tone and color, and the other one containing all the detail of my photo. Let's see how we're going to do that. To create the copies, again I will press Command J twice, and then I'm going to rename my layer 1. I'm going to call it low for the low frequency, and my layer 1 copy I'm going to name high for my high frequency. The high frequency is going to be the layer that contains all my detail, and the low layer is going to contain the tone and color of my photo. Now, I have selected my low layer, and I'm going to the filter menu, choosing blur and Gaussian blur. What I'm trying to do now is make it blurry until I do not see any details on the face, the eyes or her lips. I think about this 6.8, I think it's a good result. I'll click OK. Now this is my low layer, the one that will contain the tone and color. Now I'm revealing again my high layer, selecting it, and now I'm going to go to the image menu and apply image, and what I need to do now is make sure that I have the right settings. The right settings when I use an 8-bit image, and I have an 8-bit image as you can see here. The settings are these. I need to select my low layer here, of course the composite channel, the RGB channel, and the blending mode is going to be subtract, opacity of 100%, scale 2, offset 128, and then I'm going to click OK. Now these settings that I just told you are different when we are using a 16-bit image, and I'm going to show you exactly what the correct settings are. And these are the settings for both for 8-bit color depth and 16 color depth, and you can pause the video and write them down if you'd like. I will leave it just for a second for you to see. Okay, and then I'm going back to my photo. The result for my high layer is this one. Of course, I do not want to have a gray layer like this. I do not know how to use it. What I do know is that I need to change the blending mode to linear light. All those blending modes that you can see here, this blending mode group, what it does, it usually makes more contrast, gives more contrast to our photos, each one with a different way, but by doing that I mean that it takes the lighter tones, it makes them even more lighter, and the dark tones even darker. What will happen now though, in this case, linear light and all these ignore mid-grays. This is the gray that we have here is a mid-gray, so when I use linear light, this gray disappears. Okay, what I need to do now is start working on my retouch. First, I'm going to go on my low layer, hide my high layer once again, and I'm going to even out all areas that have some detail that I do not want to have. Low layer, I'm selecting my lasso tool and use a feather of 15 pixels. That will make my selection a little bit softer at the edges, and I'm selecting areas that I want to remove and go to filter, blur, Gaussian blur, and as you can see everything has been evened out. I click OK. Now as I'm going to do that quite a lot, I'm going to use the keyboard shortcut, which is Command F, to redo my last applied filter, and I will select here, even out, here, 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 and I'm just selecting areas and making them even out. These areas too, small spots on the skin, and I'm evening out this part too. Command F or Control F my PC, going this area. I'm just applying the Gaussian blur filter again, and now the hard part starts because this area is very difficult because she has a lot of hair on her arm, and just remember, this is not a fashion shoot. She's just someone that needed her portrait taken, and this is why we need to do all this retouching on her arm. And as you can see, I'm selecting and I'm going to apply again my last filter, which goes in blur. Command F, I'll press it once again until I do not see any bad areas. I'm deselecting, and I'll go on with her other arm, selecting, Command F, and here Command F, goes and blur this area too, and this is most of the work that we need to do on our lower layer. But remember that as long as it is a single layer, I can always come back and redo everything and do some more things if I need to, like here or here. And now I'll go on my high layer. I'm making it visible, and now on my high layer I'm going to start using my healing brush tool, the one that I need to sample before I use. I hold click, oh sorry, that went wrong. Why did that go wrong? Because now I do not need to work on current below. Here I just need to work on my current layer. I need to work just on my high layer. I do not need to sample anything else from the layers that are below. And as you can see now, the result is much better. By selecting, by taking samples from the areas and cloning them, I can work with much more precision and have greater results. As you can see, this hair went away without me having any problems. Again, I'm just going on her forehead, removing areas that might have a problem. And now, as you can see, her skin has some deep pores that I need, not exactly, I don't need to make them disappear, I just need them to be not so deep, and I want her to keep the true looks of her face. I don't want my result to be fake. I don't want her to appear like she's a mannequin or something. She's just a regular woman that I'm just making her a little bit better. I'm improving her skin quality, and as you can see, it appears to be realistic. It's not fake. I'm going on her nose too. This technique isn't hard, but it needs a little time. You should know by now that if you want good results, you need to spend some time on your images, and this kind of retouching is no exception to that. Now, as you can see, I'm alt clicking all the time and taking samples over and over again because I do not want a pattern to appear in my photo. And as you can see, this is much better than the way it was earlier. Now I'm going to make my bust a little bigger and go on with this area. I will not go just under her eye right now. I'll do that later. I'm removing all the skin's pores, the deep pores, and I'm trying to make it a little bit better. As I said, I don't want the skin to appear like as it is plastic. I just need it to be a little bit clearer. Now going back here, I'm going to remove the small wrinkle. Now I'm going to address the problem of under her eyes. Right now I'm just going to click again, sample, and remove all this bad skin and pores that's so intense. Okay, now I'm going to do the same to the other eye. Now let's see a before and after comparison, and I'm going to do that by just alt clicking on my background layer so I can hide all the other layers. And this is where we started from, and this is what we have done until now. As you can see, it's a big difference. I need to go up on her forehead again, just minor editing here again. Okay, now I'm going to go on her arm. Oh, what we can see here, we have some stray hair that we need to remove. Alt click, sample, and do that. Do it again. I'm just clicking and removing all this detail from my high layer. Eventually, this is what we are doing. We are removing all the detail that we do not need from our high layer, and everything appears much better. Okay, removing these small spots here. I won't bother removing this here because I'm going to remove uh, later when we are going to change the background, and you'll see how we are going to do that. Now, for the difficult part of our retouching, we have some baby hair here. I'm going to remove the same way. They are not really difficult to remove because they are white and they are not so intense on the skin. They do not have that much contrast. And removing, okay. Removing all the areas that have detail that I do not want. Okay, difficult part now. This is the most difficult part because we have a lot of black hair on her skin that we need to remove, but we are going to do it slowly and carefully so that we do not have any problems. I'm removing, try to remove as much as I can. If something like that happens, just undo and try to be more careful. As you can see, her skin turns real nice. It appears to be soft and clean, and I think that we've managed to keep it appear real and not fake. I'm removing. What I need to specify now is that this isn't their way of retouching a photo, it's just a way. There are other ways that we can use to retouch a photo. Maybe on some higher end images we would change some of our ways, but right now for this image, this photo, we are going to do the best we can with this technique, and I think it works just fine. Now I need to make a little smaller to remove this hair from that are close to the edge, near the edge. I won't remove the hair that are outside her arm right now. I'm going to address that later, and I have to be really careful here. And sometimes our healing brush tool doesn't work very well when we are near an edge, so I would suggest that you would change the tool and use the clone stamp tool, and this is what I'm going to do in a little bit. I'm just removing everything I can from this part of my photo, and I'm going to remove this line, this on her wrist, and now here, and these little lines. Okay, and make her pores a little lighter, not that deep. Now, for the areas that are near an edge, let's say like here, which is near her bracelet, I'm going to choose my clone stamp tool and try to copy and clone really carefully. And again, this thing happens. Why does that happen? Because we are still on a current below mode, and I need to select just the current layer because I'm working just on my high layer, the high separation, the high frequency layer. I will just change the hardness of my brush, make it a little bit harder. Now, what we need to do is go back on our low layer and make this a little bit harder too, because it contains, it's a little bit blurry and I do not want it to be that blurry. So I'm going to make my hardness go down a little bit, and I'm clicking and removing. I'm cloning right now. I'm going to do the same here, maybe with just a little bit lower opacity, let's say 50%. Cloning, removing, and let's see what's going on now. As you can see, it's much better than before. We have removed all this blurriness and things are going just fine. Okay. Again, on my high layer, I'm going on her other arm. I'm choosing my healing brush tool again. Alt click, sample, and then apply. And again, just removing all that hair. As I said before, this is not a difficult technique, but it needs some time, so be patient. And hard work needs some time. Nothing can happen instantly if you want to have a great work done. There are third-party plugins that we can use, but of course they cost. This is the cheapest way, using Photoshop, having a great result without spending a penny on any other plugins. Sorry about that. Undo. And I'm going to remove this hair here. It's so easy to remove this hair now. And the skin just keeps its natural looks. Okay. I won't do anything about this hair. I said before that we're going to remove them later when we are going to remove the background. Now, let's take a look how our photo was earlier and how we have managed to make it. I'm alt-clicking on my background layer, on the eye of my background layer, to hide all the other layers. I'm going to zoom in for you to see a little bit better. Alt-click. This is where we started from, and this is where we have taken our photo. I think it's a huge difference. Everything is much better. I'm going to show you now on her arms. You can see we have removed all the spots and hair, and everything looks perfect. Now, what I would need to do to make it even more perfect, I will create some more contrast, some more depth on her, and the way to do that is by using another gray layer, which I'm going to create right now. I'm going on my create new layer icon, but first I'm going to press the Alt key on my keyboard. So I Alt click on the create a new layer. This dialog box appears, and I will change the blending mode to overlay. And when I do that, this checkbox appears, fill with overlay neutral color 50% gray. And as I told you before, when I have 50% gray and when I'm using one of these, the gray color, it doesn't appear. It's like it is invisible. But we'll see how we're going to use that. I'm clicking OK. Now, my layer, if I see it how it normally is, it's this, just a gray layer. Using the overlay blending mode, I make it almost invisible, and what I need to do is change some of the pixels, making them darker, or some other pixels make them lighter, and I'm going to do that using the dodge and burn tool. I'm going to use the burn tool first, and the burn tool and the dodge tool work in a similar fashion, like just that the burn tool darkens pixels and the dodge tool lightens pixels. And what is amazing about these tools is that I can select which tones I need to edit, and of course I'm going to select my midtones and have a small exposure. I don't want it to be very high because I need to have more control. And now I'm just going to do this. I'm clicking and adding some shadows on her, making her pop a little bit. Here, and let's see how we did that. As you can see, when I turn off the eye of layer 1, I can see the difference, and it is pretty significant. And on the same layer I could create another one, but I'm going to do it on the same layer. I'm going to use the dodge tool, also using midtones and lower exposure. I'm going to lighten some of the pixels, creating even more depth on her. As you can see, I have given her a lot of more depth, which is nice, I think. And I'm going to go into the details now with my burn tool. I'm going to zoom in, and I'll go just below her lip and darken a little bit so that I can make it appear like it is a little bit fuller and a little bit bigger. And I'm going to do this on the sides of her nose to make it appear a little bit thinner. And let's see how it was and how it is. And an overall before and after comparison. This is how we started, and this is what we've done so far. Great difference. And let's say I'm going to do some more retouching on her. I need to make her lips a little bit thicker, just to appear normal, not too much. I don't want it to appear as it is fake. And I'm going to make her eyes a little bit bigger. And the way to do that is by creating a composite merged layer copy. A copy of all these layers into one new layer. The way to do that is by pressing Command Alt Shift and E, and I have that new layer. It's called layer 2. Now on a PC, this keyboard shortcut is going to be Control Alt and Shift and E. Now I'm going to change the name of this layer. I'm going to call it Composite 1. And now I'm going to zoom in a little bit and go in my filters menu and choose Liquify. Liquify is a pretty amazing tool. It allows me to do a lot of changes, and my favorite tool is this one. It's called Forward Warp Tool, and what this tool does is actually it makes pixels move. I can push pixels any direction I need. First of all, I need to make the brush pressure to make sure that the brush pressure is low. I don't want the brush pressure to be too high because I need to have the control over the tool. So I'm using it just to make a little bit, a small amount of moving. I'm gonna do that here too. As you can see, I make small moves. And let's see, I think this is enough. And click OK. Let's see what have I done. Okay, that looks okay. And I'm going to make her eyes a little bit bigger, and the way to do that is I'm going to use my lasso tool, and I will change the feather to 0. Sorry, 0. Okay, and I'm going to select around her eye, and then I'm going to make a copy of it just by pressing Command J, a new copy, a copy on a new layer. I'm going to select again the composite one, go to the other eye, do the same thing, the exact same thing, select Command J, and I have created a copy of her eye, of the other eye too. Now I'm going to select layer 2, and I'm going to use Free Transform. Free Transform is under the Edit menu and Free Transform, or I can use my keyboard shortcut, which is Command and T or Control and T on a PC. And as you can see here on my control panel, I can see the width and height in percentage. I'm just going to click this chain icon to maintain my aspect ratio, and I'm going to make it 105, just 5% bigger. I'm going to do the same with the other eye. I'm pressing Command T for Free Transform, click on the chain icon, 105, and OK. Now as you can see, what has happened is that we can see the edges of the layers, something that is pretty ugly, but I'm not going to let it like that. What I'm going to do is create layer mask for both of my layers, and using my brush tool and black color, I'm going to hide these rough edges. Oh, sorry, I need to have, of course, a very soft brush to do that, and I'm doing it now correctly, and everything seems to blend fine. And that's it. That's how we can make her eyes a little bit bigger, and it's much more beautiful now. And I would like to change the brightness on the white of her eye, because I think it is a little bit dark. I have already created a path, this one, which I'm going to turn to selection by command clicking on the path on my paths panel, and then I'm going back on my layers panel. I'm going to use my curves adjustment layer, clicking on it and just taking my curve a little bit let's say here. Now you can see now that we can see the edges again of this layer, but I do not need to worry about that. I do have a pixel mask, but I'm not going to use it. the way I did before. I won't go and paint it black. All I'm going to do is press this icon to see the properties of my mask, and I'm just going to feather it a little bit just to make it blend nicely. You can see the difference, huge difference. And I'm going to change a little bit the contrast on the iris of her eye. Again, I'm going on my paths panel, and I'm just clicking on this, the path that I have created earlier. Command click on it, turning it into a selection, going back to my layers panel, and I'm selecting a new curves adjustment layer, and I'm just making it a little bit more contrasty, let's say, and I think it's much better now. This is before we use the curves adjustment layers, and this is afterwards. And let's see an overall comparison. Alt click, I'm hiding everything but my background layer. Huge difference. And then for the final step, of course you know that we can go on and make some more adjustments, but for the time being I think just for the first steps we're fine right now. And the final touches are going to be masking her hair and changing the background of our photo. And to do that, I have already created a path which is called path 1. I'm going to click on it just for you to see. As you can see, I have created this path to match the form of her body, but when I'm on her hair, I haven't even tried to select it. Hair cannot be selected using the pen tool. Okay, I'll show you how we're going to do it though. First of all, to select hair, and not only hair but very difficult areas like grass or trees or things like that, the first step we are going to do is find the channel that has the most contrast to the background. I'm just clicking on my red channel. I can see how much contrast it has. The green channel, my blue channel, and I can see that my blue channel is the one that has the most contrast, hair and background. I will just remember that. Image menu and go to calculations. Calculations allow me to blend two channels together, but now I'm not going to use two channels. I'm just going to use the same channel, the blue channel. And what I needed to do is select for source 1, of course, my photo. The layer I need to be the merged layers. Channel I want it to be the blue one, and I'm going to do exactly the same steps for my source 2. Selecting merged channel blue, and I have this. Now I need to check this invert checkbox, and this is what I get. This is an alpha channel. I can see it here. This will be a new channel that would be an alpha channel, and alpha channels actually are selection areas. They are similar to my masks. Masks work also with black and white, but when I use black on a mask I hide parts of it, and when I use white I reveal parts of it. Now the alpha channels are a little bit different because when I have white I do have a selection, when I have black I do not have a selection. And now my main goal is to try and make her white and the background black, because I need to have her selected and the background not selected. I'm going to go on now. I'm just clicking OK in my calculations dialog box, and I have my alpha 1 channel. Now I'm going to use the path that I showed you earlier. Path 1, I'm going to convert it into selection by command clicking on it, and as you can see now I have a selection. And with this selection what I'm going to do is fill with white all the selected areas. And to fill I'm going to go to the edit menu, fill, and use white and OK. And then I'm going to inverse the selection. To inverse the selection I'm going to the selection menu and inverse. Now I'm not going to fill again because then I'm going to lose all these areas that I need, but what I'm going to do is have this selection as a base for me to paint. I'm going to use my brush tool with a black color, and I'm going to have a little bit of a hard brush because I need to do this. I need to turn these gray pixels that aren't any close to the hair, I need to make them black. Okay. So I'm just painting with black. I'm going to, as I have this selection, I'm just going to do this, and this, and this. I'm just being careful not to erase or blacken her hair, and I'm zooming in right now. I won't keep all that hair though, I'll just keep some of it so that it doesn't look like it's cut with the scissors. Okay, now that's it. I'm done using my brush tool. Now I'm going to deselect, and I'm left with some white areas, some black areas, and some areas that are somewhere in between. What I want to do now is make these areas, the gray pixels of the background, I need to turn them to black. To do that, as I did before, I'm going to use my burn tool. I'm going to choose the range of my tones, which is mid-tones. This is closer to the middle gray, and exposure about 30%. And I'm starting to burn. As you can see, most of the hair are a little bit lighter in color and tone, so I do not burn them. This is also a task that it's not difficult to be done, but it does need some time and some attention. I should be really careful. I don't want to overdo it. I do not want to burn all this hair. It's okay if I burn some of them, but not all of them. And as you can see, little by little, I'm making all these gray pixels. I turn them to black so that they won't be included in my selection afterwards. Of course, I'm going to use my dots tool also to make some of the hair a little bit lighter, trying to keep them. In this area, this small part. I'm going just to paint this with the paint with my brush tool, and now I'm just going to use the dots tool on the hair, and I'm going to change the range for midtones. I'm going to select highlights, also with an exposure about 30%. Of course, the exposure depends on the photo that you have and how much contrast there is. You should check it on your own to see how it works. And go here, and just some finishing touches, and now I'll go back to my burn tool and try to make some of these pixels a little bit darker here. And I think I'm okay now. Now I'm going back to my layers panel, and oh sorry, forgot, I have to click on my RGB, my composite channel, to see how my photo really is. And now what I'm going to do is just create one more composite layer, merging all these layers into one layer on top of every other one. I have my topmost layer selected, and again I'm pressing my Command, Alt, Shift and E keys on my keyboard, and let's see what I'm going to do now. First of all, I'm going to alt click on the eye of my layer 4, which is my composite layer. I'm going to change the name, called Composite 2, because I have another one here. And as I said before, I'm going to alt click my Composite 2 just to have that visible and not all the other ones. And I'm going to use my channel, my alpha channel, the one that I created just before. I'm going to use it now. To load this alpha 1 as a selection, I'm going to the select menu and load selection. On the channel menu, I click on alpha 1 and click OK. And this is my selection. Now, what I'm going to do is just add a layer mask. That's the result. Let me show you. I'm zooming in a little bit for you to see. And of course now I'm not going to leave it this way. I'm going to replace the background with another background. I have here a brick texture that I'm going to bring in my photo. I'm going to take it just below my composite 2, and that's the result. I think we've done a pretty amazing work. I think everything looks nice. We forgot that. Capacity 100%. Okay, now we are perfect. So that will be our webinar. This is how to retouch a portrait using the frequency separation technique, and this is how to mask hair and other difficult areas. I hope you enjoyed. I certainly did. If you have any comments, please write them. I'll make sure I'll try and answer each and every one. Okay, thank you for watching.